The result of being around that man, Sean Puffy Combs, I don't sleep to this day. I have a problem sleeping to this day. Like, yo, man, I'm here to work, man. I ain't sang in a week. I mean, I'm 13 years old, and I'm telling him, look, you're gonna put me in the studio, man. You got Biggie Smalls in there, you got Craig Mack in there. I'm not here to party with you. I don't want to go to the clubs. Matter of fact, I'm too young to even be in here. Why you got me in clubs? We would fight, we would tussle.
Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. All you heard was Papa, don't hit me no more. Let's go. Kick in the door, waving the 4-4. Hey, hey, hey.
Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. And he said, yo, would you send your son to Diddy camp? And Usher said, no. Ask him why he won't send him to Diddy camp.
For the longest time, Diddy's been walking around like he's this godfather of the music industry, claiming he mentored all these young stars. He loved painting himself as the guy who could take raw talent and turn them into absolute legends. And when it came to Usher, oh please, he sold us the fantasy. A sweet, wide-eyed teenage Usher just trying to break into the music biz, being handed over to Diddy like some golden opportunity of a lifetime, but baby. According to 50 Cent, that whole Big Brother narrative, straight up fiction, because behind those closed doors, it was something else entirely. And once you hear the details, that picture-perfect image crumbles. See, 50 says Diddy wasn't just mentoring Usher. He was allegedly introducing him to a whole world that no kid, no teenager should ever be a part of. We're talking wild parties, bizarre environments, and grown men with money and influence circling like vultures. And this didn't just happen overnight.
Parties are the hottest ticket around.
They won't even give me a permit for the parties, man. They don't want me to throw the parties no more. But we ain't gonna stop. We're gonna keep on having fun, bringing people together from all walks of life. You're gonna hear about my party. They're gonna be shutting them down. They're gonna probably be arresting me, doing all types of crazy things just because we wanna have a good time. You know, whenever you bring up a different element into people's environment, things that broaden people's horizon, people get intimidated. There's a lot of people out there that feel intimidated by it. It ain't nothing but breaking down racial barriers, breaking down generation barriers. People from all walks of life. Ron Perlman talking to Jay-Z, Jay-Z talking to, you know what I'm saying? It just goes on and on, you know, it's just like people from all walks of life connecting and getting together.
Dying to get into your party. How does that make you feel?
It doesn't make me feel any way special, it doesn't make me feel like a bigger person, it just makes me feel like I know how to throw a party.
That so-called guidance turned into full-on exposure to things that absolutely no team should have seen, let alone been around. And 50 Cent? He's not mincing his words anymore. He's been dropping hints for years, but now he's saying it loud and clear. He claims Diddy handed Usher over to other industry men while hiding behind that whole "I'm just mentoring him" mask. Let that sink in. Usher? Yes, the megastar, he made it, but that rise to fame, it came with scars and silence. Usher never really spoke on what went down. He's always been quiet, vague, but 50's calling it what it is, a setup. A straight up web of manipulation where Diddy wasn't some passive observer. Oh no, he was the gatekeeper. And now that more details are surfacing, Usher ain't the only one under the microscope. Everyone Diddy ever brought into his circle is being looked at sideways now. This ain't just some industry rumor, y'all. This is about power, control, and a young Usher being thrown into a grown man's game he never agreed to play. But before Diddy ever linked up with Justin Bieber, he already had his hands all over Usher's early career. This was back in the 90s and early 2000s when Usher was the rising R&B star. And just like clockwork, in comes Diddy, presenting himself as the all-knowing mentor, ready to mold Usher into the next big thing. Usher was literally a teenager, y'all, and Diddy, already a force in hip-hop and R&B, swoops in like the fairy godfather. On the outside, it looked like a dream gig, a powerful exec mentoring a talented young artist. But it didn't stop at the music. Diddy opened up doors to a whole other world. Luxury, celebrity parties, high-profile events. Stuff no teen would normally be around. That mentorship came with access, but at what cost? Apparently, Diddy also pulled Usher into his personal lifestyle, ways that, in hindsight, have folks raising serious eyebrows, and 50, he knows exactly what was happening. Even if he didn't attend those infamous parties himself, he was deep enough in the game to know the tea. There have been resurfaced clip stories bubbling up again recently, and it's all pointing toward the same thing. Diddy wasn't just steering Usher's career. He was bringing him into adult spaces no teenage boy should have been anywhere near. Usher himself admitted he stayed at Diddy's house as a teen, and let's just say that stay came with more than room and board. We're talking older women, late night parties, and a kind of freedom that most kids never experience, and maybe never should.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to
City.
something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what it
Camp.
was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In
to
the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild. It was,
So
it was
nobody
crazy.
tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't
But
say
you
that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there, Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people
all
are
of
hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige. They didn't know nothing about this. I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 a.m. with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like,
What
like
a
a living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Yeah.
Back then, the industry didn't ask questions. Everyone was too busy being dazzled by Usher's glow up. Diddy got praised for shaping Usher into a superstar. But now, people are asking what kind of so-called mentorship exposes a child to grown-up chaos. People are starting to realize this was not about nurturing talent. It was about control. And as more and more people speak up, Diddy's name keeps coming up again and again. Usher has never accused Diddy of anything criminal. But let's be honest, the public is now looking sideways at that entire relationship because 50 Cent ain't letting it slide anymore. Diddy didn't just help Usher in the studio, he shaped Usher's image, his lifestyle, and the crowd he ran with during one of the most vulnerable stages of his life. Now that Diddy's under scrutiny, investigations swirling, people are wondering whether this mentorship actually put Usher in dangerous situations he never signed up for. Let's take it back. Usher was only 13 when he moved to New York to live with Diddy for almost a year. That arrangement? It was greenlit by L.A. Reid, who thought Diddy could help Usher grow as an artist. They framed it like a golden opportunity, but Usher himself has said the experience was confusing. He admitted he saw things he didn't understand. It was supposed to be artist development, but what it really looked like, something far more troubling. Usher's never named names, never pointed fingers, but he's made it clear he wouldn't let his own son go through what he did. In his own words, absolutely not. Let that sit with you. Because Usher's career has always been this shiny success story, but behind that polished exterior, there's a darker reality, and it's slowly unraveling, not from Usher himself, but from others who say they saw it all. People like Jaguar Wright, and if you thought 50 was spilling tea, Jaguar is pouring it. Now, if 50 Cent cracked the door open, honey, Jaguar Wright kicked it down and stomped through like a woman on a mission. Because what she's been saying, it's not just shocking, it's disturbing.
I moved to New York City, and I lived with Sean Puffy Combs for a year.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you
New
over
York
to something
City.
called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's what it
Camp.
was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In
to
the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you
I
seeing?
went there to see the lifestyle,
Right.
And I saw it, and it was, but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild. It was,
So
it was
nobody
crazy.
tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't
But
say
you
that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place, and I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there, Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people
all
are
of
hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans,
And your
Jodeci,
parents were
Mary J.
okay?
Blige. They didn't know nothing about this. I was having a good time, you know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 in the morning with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like, you know,
What
like
a
living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy camp?
Jaguar has been one of the loudest, most unfiltered voices talking about what really happened between Diddy and Usher. And she's not just repeating gossip. She says she knows the truth. According to Jaguar, Diddy didn't mentor Usher. He manipulated him. Let that marinate. She claims Diddy used his power, his money, his position to put Usher in situations no teenager should ever be in. And then, wait for it, Jaguar says Diddy actually sent Usher to be around other industry men. Not for networking, not for music, but to please and appease. Yeah. She's saying it was about control, not opportunity. Jaguar paints a haunting picture of a young Usher isolated from his family, desperate to make it in a cutthroat business, and being told this was the price of fame. If you wanted to be famous, if you wanted the deals, the records, the big stages, you had to play the game. And Usher, he played it. Not because he wanted to, but because he felt like he had to. But y'all, Jaguar didn't stop there. She claims Usher wasn't the only one caught in Diddy's twisted little web. There were others, other boys, other young artists. But Usher, he was one of the earliest and most high-profile examples. And since Usher's career exploded, people looked the other way. Nobody wanted to believe that anything was wrong. Why? Because we saw the hits, the awards, the Grammy speeches, the sold-out tours. Everyone thought he was fine. But Jaguar, she says no. Behind the scenes, a whole different story. She talked about grown men leaving Diddy's house in shock, in tears, even running out, overwhelmed by whatever was going down inside. And in the middle of it all, a teenage Usher just staying because he thought he had no choice. It was grooming, plain and simple. Jaguar says Usher was led to believe this was artist development, that this was normal, that if you wanted to succeed, you had to deal with it. And the most painful part, after everything Usher endured, he later brought Justin Bieber into that same world. Yes, you heard that right. After going through this twisted, so-called mentorship, Usher introduced Bieber to Diddy.
There's a famous clip of Puffy that's resurfaced with a very young Justin Bieber saying, "I've got custody of Justin for 48 hours, and what we're going to do, we cannot divulge." I mean, these guys tell you who they are. They may do it with like a wink and a nod, but they're telling you, this is a bad, dangerous guy, and I knew he wasn't going to get bail.
And Jaguar's calling him out for it. According to her, Usher knew exactly what Diddy's world was like. He had lived it, he had seen it, and yet he still brought Justin in. She claims Usher wasn't just a former victim, he might have helped feed the system. Now, that part right there has people clutching their pearls and demanding answers. Because if Usher really knew what Diddy was about, why would he let another young boy step into that same space? Was he pressured? Was he afraid? Or was he complicit? These questions are now circling like crazy, and the public's not letting them go. Jaguar says this was bigger than one man doing damage. This was a system, a pattern, where people who got hurt were then expected to help bring in others. And now, Usher is being looked at sideways. No longer just the golden boy from Atlanta. No longer just the teen star who made it. People are asking the hard questions, and they're not stopping with Jaguar's words. Because another name has now come into the picture, and he was right there through it all. Gene Deal.
I don't F with that dude. And at the time, I didn't even know who the F Usher was. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those type of situations. And when probably say, yo, man, I don't F with the getting out that industry and everything like that. You know, Puff sent this little kid to the hospital. How he sent him to the hospital? Man, bleeding from the butt. And that's what was said. But I didn't even have a name for the kid at the time. Then you heard it, and that's what happened.
Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, is out here airing everything. No filters, no more covering for anyone. This man wasn't just hearing rumors. He was there, in the house, at the parties, at the doors. And y'all, what he saw, it haunts him.
Y'all put it together.
And what you mean by Diddy count?
Remember? He was on one of the talk shows. The white guy with the curly hair, what's his name? The white guy with the curly hair. And he said, yo, would you send your son to Diddy camp? And Usher said, no. Ask him why he won't send him to Diddy camp. but yet and still you praise him.
Damn, man, and you said that, I know you can't go into detail, but you said that it was a situation where Diddy sent him to the hospital?
Let Usher explain that to you. Let Usher mama explain that to you. And the hospital was in Scarsdale, New York.
Gene says he saw Usher, just a kid, being exposed to things no teenager should ever be around. And the worst part, he couldn't stop it. Even when he wanted to, even when his gut screamed that it was wrong. He says he was ordered to stand down, that his job was to protect, not question. But now, all these years later, he's done staying silent. Gene says Usher wasn't in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was put there, deliberately, strategically. Gene reveals that this was orchestrated. Usher was thrown into those adult situations on purpose, and every time he wanted to step in, he was shut down. He says he remembers opening a door only for Usher to walk right into a scene no kid should have ever seen. He didn't even fully understand what was happening. But in that environment, it was treated as normal, expected, encouraged, and Gene's voice literally cracks when he talks about it. He says it wasn't mentorship, it was grooming. And what really broke Gene's heart? Years later, Usher went on TV and praised Diddy, said he taught him everything he knows. Gene was like, what? He couldn't believe Usher was still giving Diddy flowers after everything that went down. And the part that cuts deepest, Usher told the world he'd never send his own son to Diddy's camp. Never. But he never explained why. Gene asks, how you gonna praise a man who you know harmed you, but won't send your son near him? And that question, it's got people talking. Gene's testimony is hitting hard, not because it's salacious, but because he was there. He's not a tabloid. He's not a blogger. He was inside the house, inside the hotel, watching it all. And now that Diddy's facing lawsuits, criminal charges, and public scrutiny, Gene's like, it's time, no more silence. Because what Usher went through, that wasn't just industry stuff. That was abuse. According to people in Diddy's old circle, there's a pain actor, the same kind of manipulation Cassie spoke about. They say it was happening to Usher too. People are whispering that Usher may have been passed around, used as leverage, that his success came at a price we were never meant to know. And just like Cassie, Usher has hinted at weird, uncomfortable memories, but never gone into detail. Why? Shame? Trauma? Or was it something darker? Y'all, it gets worse. So here's the real reason people believe Usher has stayed quiet all these years. Yes, there's trauma, shame, maybe fear of judgment, but baby, there's something way darker lurking beneath that silence. Black melded. Yep, you heard that right. There are growing claims from insiders who say Diddy recorded everything. We're not talking about studio sessions. We're talking about private parties, behind closed doors, stuff that was never meant to see daylight. Allegedly, Diddy had cameras everywhere, documenting things that weren't just questionable, but downright criminal. The whispers, they say this wasn't about capturing memories. This was about control, keeping people on a leash. And if these allegations are true, that means Usher could have been on those tapes. Let that sink in. Insiders are saying Diddy's whole mentorship game came with strings, and one of those strings might have been blackmail. Imagine you're 14, 15, and someone like Diddy's recording your every move in a grown man environment. If those tapes exist, what kind of fear would that put in your heart? Now you see why Usher might have never come forward, why he never spilled the real tea, why he stays so careful with his words, because when you're up against a man with that kind of power, that kind of footage, it's not just your career on the line, it's your entire life. And let's be honest, Diddy was once untouchable. A kingpin in the industry. People didn't dare cross him. You go against Diddy, you're blackballed, shut out, destroyed, no deals, no tours, no features, nothing. According to People magazine, former Danity Kane singer Dawn Richard took the stand and testified about something that has people shook. She says she saw Diddy physically assault Cassie, yes, Cassie Ventura, in public during a high-profile dinner in 2010. Want to know who was there? Usher. Let's get into it. Dawn testified that during a quiet argument at a restaurant, Diddy suddenly punched Cassie in the stomach, just like that. And Cassie, she bent over in pain. Now the question is, who's next to speak? And will Usher finally step up and tell the truth? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the world is watching now. And silence, it's no longer an option.